Great. So welcome to the Digital Literacy workshop from Teaching Skills That Matter. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I heard some like weird echoey stuff, so I wasn't sure. Our team is Bill Hladky, Mariah Leary, Nina Bar-Giora, me, and Rebecca Sherry. And this is brought to you through Propel. So to start off with, what does digital literacy mean to you? We are going to do a little word cloud to represent that information and everyone's input. So go in another tab, go to slido.com. And when it asks you to enter a code, it's going to be this one right here. And I'll also put this code in the chat to make it easier. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Now I am sharing this tab. Okay. Can everybody see the blue active poll?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So go ahead and enter in your word or words for what digital literacy means to you. Ooh, okay. We went from 3 to like a lot. Awesome. Great. Get a job, information sharing, information access, technology, communication, functionality online, effectiveness, cell phones, social. So do any of these in particular like really stand out to you or resonate?
Information sharing and functionality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like, so I can see the number of votes for each one or how many people put one, but yeah, information sharing, information and communication, all were on there. So those all kind of overlap. Great. Well, thanks for participating in that.
Question. I saw the information change. Is that changing by the number of people that put the same word in?
Oh, good question. I think with this type of word cloud thing, it will do that, but based on how many votes are for each word or how many like times each word was put in,
Okay.
it would change, but it says there's only one for each one. So there haven't been any like repeat words yet. But I think if there was, like if another person right now put in information, yeah, there you go. Exactly. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah. That was a good question because now we know. Perfect. Great. Okay. So I am going to go back to the presentation. So what is digital literacy? So if well, actually, I'll just say that I realized that I didn't actually have a definition for it. And I realized that a lot of people might think of it slightly differently. So it seemed important that we all kind of have a common understanding of what it is. So yeah, the skills associated with using technology to enable users to find, evaluate, organize, create, and communicate information, and developing digital citizenship and the responsible use of technology. So that is one definition that we found from the Museum and Library Services Act. And it includes finding and consuming digital content, creating digital content, and communicating and sharing digital content, which I think we touched on in our kind of word cloud thing too. So let's see. So why is digital literacy important for our students? That's kind of like, the overarching question here. And, why is it a skill that matters? Why does it matter? So I don't know if Bill, you want to take over? I actually can't remember now if we were going to do a breakout room for this part or not. So maybe we'll just type in the chat in your own words, briefly, why do you think digital literacy is important for our students?
But I'll get it from her. If you get it back, I'll get that from her.
Okay. We got learning more and more, privacy concerns. Students are taking classes online so that they can help their kids with school. Applying for jobs, seeking any information, discerning quality of information, preparing them for a digital age. I'm going to add one. Accessing healthcare and banking, for example, navigating systems. So it has a lot of overlap with other skills that matter too. All right. And Bill, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Want to do the next slide, Nina? Appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. So actually, I'll do the slide. So for high school equivalency, why and how do I teach digital literacy? So yeah, many adults, don't necessarily have the digital skills to, do job searches, apply to jobs online. For navigating public and social systems, like one thing I think of is using, their phones or apps or just a website to find like information on the Department of Health for, vaccine clinics or finding a place to get COVID tested. That's one of the first things I think of. And adult ed classes are using computers and smartphones as study aids a lot more. Like in our classroom here at Tech, we use Google Classroom so that if a student misses class, they can still catch up and they can go in the Google Classroom and see what they missed. And also GED and HiSET are available in online versions. And I know at Tech, for example, in UNM Taos, they're taking the HiSET completely on a computer. So, yeah. And, sorry.
No, I would just add that I had a student the other day, we were pre-testing. He was doing the TABE and he asked me, how does this mouse work? And he was applying for a janitorial job in the local city and they required a GED. And that sort of just blew him away for that level job, but it's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even like working at a restaurant, for example, you have to use the POS, for entering sales and or orders. I mean, I think like basically every job at this point has been touched by technology. Oh, I see someone said shopping. Yeah, if you need to buy stuff online. I'm also thinking back to the pandemic, like maybe you're someone who doesn't want to go to the grocery store, and it makes more sense to, buy the food and then pick it up curbside. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely purchasing things online. That's part of it too. Or maybe for your job, you're asked to like make an order for something online. So yeah. Anyone else have any examples of how like this has come up for you and your students?
Well, the other day I was just stopped at a local restaurant to buy lunch, and after we ordered and got the order, he hands me one of those Apple tablets to pay through, and I already had cash in my hand. So I mean, that was his preferred method of handling the sale, which it's fine with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can be a little bit jarring too. Like if you're ready to pay with cash and then they're handing you this iPad.
Well, I figured out that it would be easier for me just to hit the 10 or 15% tip button, mentally calculated. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Registering for HiSet. Definitely. Yeah. Even just like making accounts, we end up spending a lot of time on that in class at Tech, and there's always some, glitches or, obstacles with that, or just changing your password. And yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's a pain. Awesome. So, okay. So for ESL, I will hand it over to Rebecca.
All right, thank you. So David, my ESL friend, you're here. When we talk about the why of teaching digital literacy, and I know it's like I'm talking to the choir here, but I mean, reality, what happened to our program's ESL enrollments during the pandemic?
Yeah, exactly.
And I did a little, I was looking last night, a little bit of research on questions about the digital divide and the digital literacy gap and stuff like that. But I almost think at this moment, most of our programs can record like the anecdotal evidence that our ESL student populations, for the most part, went down during the pandemic. And there were a lot of factors in there, but one factor was all of the steps in the process that now require digital literacy just to participate in a course. And I don't know how it is at your agency, but I know at my agency, we moved to things like an online application. And that actually represents a barrier for some students, just to be able to complete that little piece. Additionally, really closely related to that is that most jobs require digital skills, and even at almost every level, like, it's been brought up already, the level of applying for the job, that the job applications have now moved entirely online. You cannot fill a paper application out anymore. Job pre-testing has moved online as well. Like, I know if you want to work for Albuquerque Public Schools, like as a paraprofessional, you have to complete an online exam to do that, and so there's those kinds of steps like that. And then the other thing that I think we should never forget about is that educational opportunities have now also become tied to technology. And it is not only for our students, but also for their children. Their children's educational opportunities can be impacted negatively if the students themselves don't have strong digital skills. A lot of our schools have now, our K-12 schools have incorporated things like Google Classroom into every class now. So can you help your child with their homework, et cetera, et cetera. Or accessing higher education. It's impossible really to access higher education without a level of digital skills and an understanding of navigating systems like Nina mentioned already. So when I think about how I like to teach digital literacy with my students, I'm going to do my little soapbox here just for one moment. There are two things that I think every ESL class needs to incorporate. And I don't care if you are teaching the most beginner students. One is writing, and two is digital literacy. You can't wait to put those skills at the higher level. And I think one of the things to go back to is even our students who are at a most basic level technologically can all use WhatsApp. So people can learn digital skills when it serves them. It's not an impossibility, right? But some recommendations that I have for that is that if you're going to set up, digital activities in your classroom, whenever you have the opportunity to practice those skills in person before assigning it as homework. And if you can't, a Zoom call with a screen share may have to serve you, but you're going to have to be prepared, especially with lower level students, that you may have to do a lot of one-on-one at the most basic level. I mean, Bill brought up, like, what's the mouse? Okay. We used to have students in one program that I worked in use the free draw program that was on most of the computers, the basic draw program, to practice manipulating a mouse and get that skill, so that's a way you can do it. And then the other way that I like to practice digital skills with my students is in project-based learning, because it puts the digital activities into a real context. So what I mean by that is we are going to give a presentation, and you're going to make that presentation in PowerPoint, or you're going to make that presentation in Google Slides. The other aspect of doing it in project-based learning, whenever possible, is that it often has you having your students working in groups. And students are really, really good at helping each other move forward on those digital skills. Someone in the group usually knows how to make PowerPoint work. And I put my students in random groups frequently, and I almost always get someone in the group who can do PowerPoint, and I say PowerPoint because that's what we most commonly use in our program, but it could be Google Slides too, So that's kind of my comments on digital literacy and ESL. And do you guys have any comments or any shares that you'd like to offer? David, you can tell us all about your experience. I know you do ESL.
Well, you're right. During the pandemic, we lost like 75% of our students due to access, right? They don't have internet at their homes. They don't have a device except for their phone. And a lot of times they didn't know how to get into a class. And especially during the pandemic, when there was no real opportunity to meet in person to help them, it was just no students. But now that we're back, Rebecca's right on point about introducing these things at whatever level. So you brought up WhatsApp. We use that a lot in our program. Like first day, get everyone on the WhatsApp account so that you have a way to communicate.
Yeah, the only thing I dislike about WhatsApp is that it does open you to a lot of advertising and unwanted messages. Because I've done WhatsApp with my students too, and I really didn't need some of those messages about particular services that I'm not terribly interested in.
Yeah.
So, but it's very effective because most of the students already know how to use it.
Yep.
Yeah. And you can do certain features, like even having remote presentations on WhatsApp. I've had students record a presentation for me. So. That's all I got, Nina.
I can remember one short story here that when Kahoot first came up, I thought, wow, this is really cool. So one of the first classes I taught, I said, okay, we're going to play a game. Everybody bring out their smartphone and log on to this app. And 2 students did not have smartphones. I did not think of that, talk about a barrier. Immediately, I said, okay, well, let's form them into groups, and we know that. But you never know what's going to come up in your class. The other thing, I'm a fan of Nearpod now, and with Nearpod, when you want to do any interactive activity, you can specify what they're going to use, either input text, input drawing, download an image, which gets everybody to use everything, I think, which is pretty good. Great app.
All right. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So food for thought. We've kind of thought about this first question, but how are you currently presenting this information to your students, or are you? So, whatever you're doing right now, and maybe are there some ways you could increase how much you're using digital literacy in your classroom? So how can you better teach this content area to your students going forward? And if you're not sure yet, then that's why the upcoming Teaching Skills That Matter course is very useful. So yeah, I guess we won't make breakout rooms because we have a small group. So yeah, if you haven't shared anything yet and you want to share something, please go ahead.
I'll just add my quick comment here that TSTM really taught me to be more aware of what I'm teaching. You know, so when you're doing a lesson, if I'm doing it on digital literacy, I think I'm just more aware of the tools that I'm going to use. You know, are they going to be applicable to the lesson? Is it going to engage the students? And are we going to have a good outcome at the end with that? Or checklist better than anything else.
I would say, admittedly, that digital literacy is probably the weakest part of our ESL program, and doesn't have to be. But I think a lot of what happens in the classroom on the digital literacy front has to do with how comfortable and familiar an instructor is. Even if students are like way advanced of the instructor, it kind of defaults to whatever the instructor can do. And I hope I'm gonna take the TSTM training this time around, and I'm hoping that maybe there's something in that training where I can. So I'm the manager. I don't teach, but I'm the manager of the program, and I'm hoping that I can gain something to impart to instructors to at least motivate them to explore some things that they could use.
Can I ask you a question of the audience? Does anybody do any of your programs, if there's a lower performing student, put them into a digital skills class?
At SFCC Adult Ed, we don't have separate digital literacy skills classes. Sometimes they have occurred in the past, but not for like the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, Western's thinking about it. I was just curious what the experience was.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we could think about more at Tech, because we have this resource in the community. It's called Taos Hive. I forget what it stands for, but it's basically like a digital literacy community resource, and it's also like an internet-based vocation kind of resource center as well. And so they have like digital skills classes open to anybody, and they're also part of UNM Taos. So I think now that we're talking about this, I'm thinking that we could do more to connect our students with their courses if needed. But we do end up just doing kind of a lot in class of, navigating email and getting into Google Classroom. Let's see, it's at Northern Española, but the students must sign up. Okay. Do you want to share more about that, Madeline? I'm just reading the chat.
Oh, hi. Yeah. It's not like a regular built-in class like the HSE reading and math are. So it's available if a new student comes, because students, new students are enrolling weekly. So it's available. So the student has to kind of request it, or and has to sign up for it, I believe, on a weekly basis. And the class itself is not face-to-face, it's online. So that's kind of tough.
Yeah, well, it's like if a student is requesting help, then how, like, to use online skills, then having the class be online is kind of a catch-22, right?
Exactly, unless if they have their teenager kids, help them, or otherwise it can be very intimidating and frustrating for them.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to share, I never thought I would be an online teacher, and I absolutely love it. But if, before pandemic, I never would have considered this because, especially ESL, the students, they need their t-shirt, the teacher, they need you to be there with them, kind of holding their hand, and it's really more family oriented. But I love teaching online, and I think the students are loving it as well. And now they have the option if they want to come to online classes or face-to-face classes. So the thing is, we're always growing. The students are growing with their digital literacy. The teachers, we're always growing on a daily basis. I'm constantly learning a new tip or a new technique, and it's just very spontaneous, and it's just about being open-minded about it and being patient with ourselves and being patient with each other, because especially in Española, the internet is not always good like Albuquerque. So that takes a lot of patience, and I have to find other ways to reach out and to get the work to the students, and I have to get them feeling comfortable, not embarrassed. There's a lot to it. There, some cities are more have the issue of poverty more than others. Without getting too specific, I know you know what I'm talking about. So students, they're too shy to show their face. They don't have their camera on at all. I have to kind of beg them, please turn your camera on just to wave goodbye to me or wave hi. So it's just a whole new world, and it's just one step at a time. Thanks.
Madeline, I think you hit on a couple of really good points, and I would just add that when we made the pivot to online teaching, I can't speak for everybody, but I just basically took a face-to-face lesson plan and said, okay, we're just going to do it online. And that did not work. And I think what we're seeing now is to more fully engage the students, make them part of the process, maybe even let them sort of lead the class as to what we're doing. You mentioned that teachers are growing. We learn tips every day. We have to be ahead of the curve with them.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
And I, just one other quick one. The other day, I met with two students during one of these student drop-in hours. And as I said before, we're using Nearpod. And with the video, you can stop the video, add an activity, let them complete it, and then continue on. And the students really liked that because they said, first of all, I'm part of the process. And secondly, it helped their self-esteem because they could answer the question. And then the presenter would also answer the question and go, yes, I got it. I'm good, And so we're seeing the engagement really, start to ramp up, which I'm glad.
All right. So TSTM has some lesson plans in digital literacy, or that incorporate digital literacy. So if you haven't checked it out already, here's the link to take you there. And it also has an example. It has a video showing what this might look like as well. So yeah, has anyone here checked these out before? Well, obviously I know that some of us have. Okay, put link in chat. Okay.
And I would add the video example for that link is actually a teacher leading a synchronous online class, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to watch and see how someone else does it. I am having a hard time. Okay, there we go. I am putting the link in the chat. Oh, cool. Thanks,
I already
Rebecca.
did it, Nina.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Cool. Has anyone who's used these lesson plans like found anything in particular? Well, I guess I'm talking to Rebecca and Bill. I don't know if you've used them before, or just from looking at them, was there anything that stood out to you that you found to be especially helpful?
Well, my thought was that when we first started TSTM, and this is going back to the initial training we had, being faced with a 2 or 3 inch binder with all this information was sort of overwhelming. But I found that now, having used it, these lesson plans are more of a checklist, so you don't forget. Make sure you are getting to everybody. You are using all these skills that we're trying to teach, that you're using the right approach. It's like a pilot checklist. You don't want anything to go wrong once you're in the air. And you certainly don't want anything to go wrong once your lesson started, although you can't stop that. It's bound to happen. But that's the fun of teaching, I think.
I guess if I add something, what I would say is that with the TSTM lesson plans, one of the things I do like about them, particularly with digital literacy, is that it's incorporated in the context of the lesson. So it isn't like, today we're going to the computer lab and we're going to learn how to use the computer. You have a language objective built into that lesson plan. Like, we are also practicing, main idea, reading for main ideas, or this verb tense or something like that. So it's fully incorporated. And I guess this kind of speaks a little bit, Debbie, to a little bit what you were saying, in relation to like teachers and their comfort zone. If it's centered within, the technology is centered within an ESL lesson, then I think that might help teachers to feel a little bit more confident about what they're teaching. They're not strictly there to be computer teachers at that moment, I mean, it's a mix, because some teachers are just like, yeah, I'm still not comfortable, I'm still not doing it, but others are going to be like, oh, I'm just teaching an ESL lesson and the computer happens to be involved in it. And that's how I feel like when I tell the students, okay, now we're going to make a PowerPoint. There's usually a mini lesson about how to use PowerPoint, but that I'm not a computer teacher. I'm teaching present continuous actually on that lesson.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Integrating digital literacy into like the learning objectives that you're already doing, and how we're not computer teachers. Like you said, it's not like we're going into the computer lab and today we're going to learn how to do this. So yeah, I think that's like a really key point about it. And one thing I noticed when we had students choose a topic for their project in science class a few sessions ago was that some students got really into using PowerPoint and they had like all kinds of different features. Some students, it was actually their first time using PowerPoint. But it was cool to see how everybody kind of took it to whatever level they wanted to, but everyone was at least getting that baseline experience of using PowerPoint and like conveying the information for their project. So yeah, there were some really cool projects. It was really nice to see. Yeah, and obviously there's other ways to incorporate digital literacy besides PowerPoint too, but that can be like one entry point. All right, cool. Yes, that is a better address and easier to remember, tstm.nmdelt.org. Thank you. Okay, so we have reached the reflection portion. So yeah, we've kind of already done a lot of this discussion about this, but what's something that you would like to learn about teaching digital literacy? So an aspect of it, or perhaps a specific use of it in the classroom. And I just realized, Bill, I never like handed it over to you. I just kept going.
That's okay.
Okay.
You were on a roll. I wasn't going to interrupt.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to help you get started here. Do you want it in chat or spoken?
Oh, thanks for asking that. let's do chat, actually. I was thinking spoken, but yeah, let's do chat. And then we can talk about it. Yeah, so having a better resource bank of basic video instructions in multiple languages. Yeah, there's so many apps out there. A curated list might highlight the most engaging and useful programs. That would be great too. How to scale up from basic app usage to full suite of digital functions. Jamboard. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Yeah, does anyone want to add to any of this?
I was just curious as to, does anybody use a chat program that works well with online learning?
Wait, what do you mean by chat?
I mean, like a chat room, a lounge where you can just, have a good stream of thought that you can follow. That
Oh,
seems
like
to be the one missing component that I just haven't wrapped my hands around yet.
during class or outside of class?
Outside of class.
Oh, okay. I haven't done that. I know that there's Discord, which is an app that, a lot of the younger folks use.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
other
I don't know.
thing, the other thing would have to be under the umbrella of, I think, our educational group, just to make sure of any privacy or security concerns. I remember my first online class was with Blackboard and had a great, discussion area there. But
Madeline says in the chat, the stream in Google. Oh, so the stream on Google Classroom, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say that I think some of the learning systems incorporate mechanisms where you can do that. Like the one I'm used to using has kind of a mechanism where you can build something like that if you want to. It used to have a better mechanism incorporated, but they dropped that, unfortunately. Yeah. But I agree with Madeline, like that the Google Stream kind of thing does give you that opportunity. And then you can set up social media groups that are closed. That's the one way to do it. It's just, I have some concerns about using social media groups in classrooms just for privacy and because they're, selling all your information, and there's other reasons too. But that is another mechanism, especially if you have, like when we talk with the ESL students and a lot of them already have WhatsApp, they seem not unhappy to join a WhatsApp group then. And I think the groups are fairly closed. It's just that being on WhatsApp gets you messages.
Yeah, and I have some recommendations for using apps where students can submit questions through that app on their computer that the instructor can see. I've never used one before, but I think Cult of Pedagogy had an article about it. And they were talking about how it's a way for students who are shy or, they are embarrassed about the question they have, a way for them to ask that of the instructor. So I don't know if any of you have heard of using that before. I think the article was more talking about using it in K through 12. But yeah, I don't know. Do y'all have any info about that or thoughts?
There's so many ways to communicate back and forth. So I could send private messages, they can send private messages to me, or it can be to the group, public, to the class. whatever is more comfortable for them. And that's available for them in their assignments that they hand in, their written work. But the front page of the Google Classroom has the stream as the first tab. So that's what you see. So you could see the students, communicating with each other just like they communicate with their friends and Instagram. It's just like that. So they love it. So I know that they love that mode. So that's where I post all their work and things that I want them to be working on. So I know that they're reading all that stuff. They may not be going to the classwork tab, but I know they're on the stream hanging out.
So, Madeline, I love the way that you're engaging your students in that. I want to tell you a little cautionary tale, though. I know in the ESL classes, we have a strong tendency to like put things up front and like, where's the easiest place for our students to find it? And what I have found is that if students then move into credit classes, they are not able to find their work. So it does help our students if we also give them some chances to practice doing something like, most of the work is in the stream, but let's find it in the classwork today or something like that. And I don't know your format, so I don't know if you have an opportunity to be with your students and go through that. But since I've taught both the non-credit and the credit students, that's one of the things I really notice happen in ESL.
Yeah, I do post for them as well in the classwork, but whenever you post something in the classwork tab, it automatically goes to the stream as well. So that's a really good function.
Great. So that's technically the end of our presentation. But yeah, does anyone have any questions or final thoughts? You can put them in the chat or speak them. Yeah, Google Classroom skills are in progress. Me too. Are these recordings going on the YouTube channel? I don't know. Bill or Rebecca, do you know?
I can answer that one.
Go, Tina.
Oh yeah, Tina's here. Great. Hi.
Yes, they will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel. So.
And also just to add to that, Tina, ultimately in our Propel site for TSTM, and there's going to be an opportunity for people to watch them and then answer a survey and get credit for having watched them as well. But that is an in-progress piece, so don't expect it in the absolute near future. It's coming.
Very near future.
Very near future? Okay.
Very. Actually, I think you've got most of them ready, but yeah, we'll get them.
Also, there's a lot of information on these apps in Propel under Adult Ed, under those technical webinars, Google Slides, Nearpod, etc.
Great. Yeah. So here's contact information for us and the link for the toolkit of lesson plans. Yeah. If anyone wants to add anything else from the team here, I'm done talking officially.
You did good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks to everybody else for attending.